Hello, my lovelies. How are we doing today, ladybugs? I hope we're all doing well. I know I'm doing pretty good. It's been a little bit of a stressful few days, but nothing a little nursery time can't handle, right? So today we're going to be dressing my 4 Evelyns by Cassie Brace, and that is Asia, Melee, Evangeline, and Hunter. So we will definitely be having some fun today. He is still wearing his little Easter outfit. I don't know if you could see with my hands in the way, but let me show you. There's his little Easter outfit. Isn't he cute? This is my only boy, Evelyn, and he's got really beautifully painted hair. In fact, all but one of my Evelyns has painted hair, although I do want to get Evangeline rooted. She is my favorite Evelyn, and I just adore her. And I definitely want to get her rooted at some point, but it's just been hard to find somebody that I trust enough to send her to because she's one of my most favorite babies. I've had her for a really long time and I just adore her. So we're going to talk about Hunter first. So this is one of the outfits I had picked out for Hunter. Sorry, let me get out of the way. This is a vintage little outfit, which I think would be so cute on him. So there's that one with little blue shoes, little dark blue shoes, or we have this one, this little sort of, I don't know, safari, I don't know if it's safari, but kind of safari outfit with these little work boots. So I'm trying to decide what I'm going to put him in first. I think for today, I'm going to go with the safari outfit. I really want to use this on him, but just not today. We're going to put that right there. So what I wanted to talk about today is, who are you? When you think about yourself, sit there for a second in silence and ask yourself that question: who am I? And what do you come up with? A lot of people might say, I've red hair, I have blue eyes, I'm overweight, or I'm underweight, or I'm perfectly at weight, or you know, I'm a little hyper. Those are all personality traits. When I say who are you, I mean who are you as a person? You know, what makes you tick? Are you a kind person? Are you patient? I know in my younger years, when my kids were little especially, I did not have any patience, and I often prayed for patience, and because I just was not a patient individual back then. And I don't think it's that uncommon for young people to not have a lot of patience, but I certainly didn't have a lot of patience. I would not have described myself as a patient person. And I think that's pretty typical of, 20s and 30s, sort of. We live in an instant gratification world, and because of that, we don't foster a lot of patience in our young people. But I also think it's just a natural age thing. I think you develop patience as you get older, Things change as you get older, and I think patience is definitely one of those things that we get a lot more of as we get older. Things that used to bother us a lot don't really bother us anymore. It's just that kind of thing, or at least that's my experience. In recent years, I would say the last 5 years or so, I found myself much more patient, much more tolerant, much less excitable. That's definitely. How do you guys think that for you? Do you think if you're a young person in your 20s or 30s or teens, do you feel like you have an abundance of patience? I know that was where my downfall was. I just didn't have patience, and I didn't have a lot of tolerance. And I'm not talking tolerance like toward gay people or, not that kind of tolerance. I'm talking about tolerance for everyday situations, like when things go wrong, is it, oh my gosh, look what happened. This is the worst thing ever. Are you kind of like that, kind of dramatic? Which, I'm not saying drama queen or anything, but I definitely think we tend, especially when we're young, to kind of exaggerate situations, and they always feel worse to us than they actually are. You know what I mean? So I know these are girls' socks, but I can't find my bag of boys' socks right at the moment. So he's going to wear these because he's going to be wearing little work boots anyway. So it's not really going to matter what's on his feet. Oh, actually, you know what? These gray socks would probably be good. So yeah, that's something that I struggled with when I was young: patience, tolerance, just that kind of, thing that happens when you're young, I guess. I don't know. I haven't known a lot of young people to be incredibly patient or tolerant of situations. And again, I'm not talking about tolerance of different kinds of people, like color, ethnicity, sexual orientation, not that kind of tolerance, but I mean tolerance for just everyday situations. You know, when I was young, everything that happened was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst ever. You know, even though it really wasn't the worst ever, and it wasn't even close to the worst ever, but in my book, it was the worst ever at that time. And now I'm just kind of like, you know, stuff happens. And I've been able to, oops, I need to, 1 second, I just have to grab a pair of scissors. I've been able to find myself being more tolerant and more lenient, I guess. 1 second, I'm coming right back. I didn't have enough safety pins one of the times I put the shoes together. So instead I used little pieces of string to tie them together so I could find the matches. And that's what I needed to cut. But I've noticed as I've gotten older, patience is definitely something that I've found a lot more of. Tolerance of everyday situations, that kind of thing. And I'm really grateful for that, because I think a lot of us lack patience. Maybe not you in particular. I don't know you personally. So you know, you might very well have a patience issue, but I know I had a patience issue. So back to the original question. When I think about who I am, I think about sort of the kind of person that I am, not so much my hair color, eye color, more my interests. And the reason I bring this up is because I've seen a couple of posts on Facebook recently about people that are really struggling with their families as far as the reborns go. And here's the way I look at it. If you are a decent, good, kind-hearted person and you live a good life, then what makes you happy shouldn't matter to anyone else. You know what I mean? Like when people, you know, like let's say your mother doesn't agree with the reborns and says to you, you know, this is, you need to grow up and stop playing with dolls, and ask her, you know, why does it, you know, just be open about it. Why does it bother you so much? You know, why does this upset you to the level that it does? Do you want me to be happy? And of course, any good mother is going to say yes and say, well, this makes me happy and it doesn't hurt anybody. So why does it bother you so much? And I think if you confront it on that level, just right out in the open and not kind of beat around the bush, I think you get a much better response, because no mother is going to say to you, no, I don't want you to be happy. And number two, when you ask the question, does it hurt anybody? They can't say that it does. And I think it puts things in perspective. Here's Hunter all dressed. There he is. Isn't he handsome? Hi, Pumpkin. He is just a beautiful baby. I love this kit. I think this is probably my all-time most favorite kit, Evelyn. It is so real looking and so cute, and I just adore it. I don't think I've ever seen an Evelyn that I didn't like. So there's Hunter. He's going to take over the girl's baby seat right now, and we're going to get Asia, and she is my rooted Evelyn. She was painted by Gladys Aguilar of Gladys Nursery, and she is just gorgeous, just my little stunner. Anyway, so when you have someone who questions your need to have reborns and says it's weird or it's creepy, just ask them, you know, do you want me to be happy? And then when they say yes, and say, well, this makes me happy, and who does it hurt? And genuinely ask that question, because the reality is that nobody can tell you that this hurts somebody, because it doesn't. It doesn't hurt anybody else. So it's kind of a no negative, you know, hobby. It doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't cause any grief. It doesn't, you know. So I would just ask that question outright. If someone is saying, you know, you need to grow up and stop playing with dolls. This is weird. This is crazy. Just say, you know what? This makes me happy, and you want me to be happy, don't you? And who does this hurt? Who gets hurt by this? And what you'll find is that when you put it like that, and then talk about their hobbies. Well, you like to make cards, or you like to, you know, sing and dance, or you like to do whatever they like to do. And nobody tells you you can't. That makes you happy. When I play with my dolls, or when I have my dolls with me, I feel the same way you do when you do A, B, or C. Hang on, she needs a new diaper because her diaper has torn. So, you know, put it in that perspective so they can understand how it makes you feel to play with the dolls. You know, if you compare it to something that they do, like singing and dancing or whatever their hobbies are. When you put it in that perspective, they will probably be more likely to understand what it is that you're saying because they can relate based on their own hobby. So you say, well, when you make quilts, it makes you happy. And I'm glad for that. I get the same feeling when I play with my dolls. And that, I think, puts it in a better perspective for them. So definitely, though, fight back. Don't let people tell you that you can't do something that makes you truly happy. Life is just too short. Trust me when I say that. Life is just too short to spend it being unhappy. And if something as simple as a doll makes you happy, then nobody should tell you that you can't have that. You know what I mean? So I would definitely stand up for myself. I'm very blessed in the sense that my family is incredibly supportive of my need for the dolls. And as long as it makes me happy, it's not hurting anyone, and it helps with my condition, they don't really care. And I think that's how families should be. But I think a lot of people see this, again, it goes back to the Lifetime movie endings where you see the crazy woman rocking back and forth in an asylum, clutching a baby doll for dear life. And that's the image that people get when they hear about adults playing with dolls. And so you have to dispel that image and say, look, I'm not going to become someone dangerous. I'm not going to do something absolutely out there. This just happens to make me happy. I really enjoy it, and I don't see why it bothers you so much. And people will say, well, I don't want to confront my mom like that, or I don't want to confront my dad, or I don't confront my sister. And here's the thing you have to think about. If you expired tomorrow, would you regret anything? Would you regret not, getting a doll and feeling the joy and the happiness that they can bring to the right people? Let's be honest, this hobby isn't for everybody. It is certainly not a universal hobby that, everybody loves. It's certainly for certain people who have the desire to want to do this. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and it doesn't hurt anybody. And when you put it in that perspective, it kind of seems like, okay, why am I getting so upset about this? You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely important to stand up. Even though my family that I live with is incredibly supportive, I've had other relatives and even friends who have said, I don't understand this. This is crazy. Why are you doing this? And I've basically said that to them, which is that, why does this bother you so much? Like, I'll give you an example. I have a relative who basically said that I was crazy because this was such a nuts thing. And when did I lose my mind? And I basically said to her, why does this bother you so much? Like, why does this get you so worked up? Because it seems like reborns bring out a lot of passion in people one way or the other. Either you love them or you hate them, find them creepy, and despise them. I have found very few people who are middle of the road kind of people. And she said, because it seems crazy, because it makes you look like you've lost your mind. And I said to her, but isn't that really my issue to deal with? Like, if people are going to think that I'm crazy, isn't that really my, for me to worry about, Like, if I don't care, why do you care? And I think, after talking to her for a while, she basically said, you know what, you're right. It doesn't affect me. And if it makes you happy, then, I'm glad for you. And I think what it did was it opened her eyes to the fact that, I said to her, well, you do, A, B, and C. And, nobody tells you that you shouldn't do that. Nobody tells you shouldn't have your hobbies. And she was like, yeah, you're right. And I think what it does is it brings it back to reality and takes the drama off it. You know what I mean? When people see this, they're like, oh my gosh, this person is totally crazy. Look what they're doing. Look at the level they're stooping to. It's just insane. And then when they actually think about it, when you bring it up to them, it's like, they're like, yeah, why am I getting so worked up about this? It's a doll. What, why do I care? And I think what they'll find and what you'll find is that this is a them issue. It's their issue. It's something that makes them uncomfortable. It's something they have to work through, but it's not a you issue, And that's the case with a lot of things in life. A lot of times people will make judgments about us or about something we do. And And all you have to do is just bring it back to reality and say, why does this bother you so much? You don't have to take part in it. You don't have to do it. And I think when people realize that it's a them problem, then they're like, yeah, why am I wasting, basically you're letting the fact that I want to play with dolls take up rent in your head. Why would you do that? Why would you get so worked up about it? That, you know what I mean? So I think it's really important. This is Anastasia, but I call her Asia. And she is all dressed now. What do you guys think? Doesn't she look cute? This is one of my favorite outfits. I have a couple like these, not exactly the same, but a couple of these rompers that I just absolutely love. There's this one, and then there's one that's got yellowish flowers on it. It's really pretty. But I love these little rompers. So now Asia is all dressed. There she is. Isn't she adorable? Look at her little pigtail sticking up. So cute. So I think once you bring it back to it's a them issue, I think they realize that, like, why am I getting so worked up about this? Why am I letting this upset me so much? And I think that once they realize that there's no reason for it, then they kind of calm down and they're like, okay, yeah, this is really not worth my time and energy. This is my favorite Evelyn. This is Evangeline. Isn't she beautiful? She is a pretty girl. Pretty little girl. And she's one of my all-time favorite babies. I've had her now for maybe 6 years, 5 years, something like that. It's been a really long time, and I just adore her. She's so sweet. So definitely confront people that want to judge you for your life choices and ask them, why does this bother you? Why is it any of your business? When you bring it and when you say to them, you know what, the fact that you're uncomfortable with this is really a you problem. What they'll realize very quickly is that it is in fact a you problem. It's not a problem of yours, it's a problem of theirs. But I don't think most people think about it like that until it's brought to their attention. This is the outfit she was wearing. It's so cute. And so when you bring it to their attention, then they're like, yeah, why am I getting so worked up about this? If it makes you happy, do it. That's how, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. I don't want to give the wrong impression. But your rights end where somebody else's begin. So if you are infringing on someone else's rights or you're hurting somebody else in your hobby, then that's not good and you shouldn't do that. But as long as you're not hurting anyone and you're not affecting anyone but you, nobody should have the right to say anything. And I know that's easier said than done because I know that people will say things even though they really shouldn't. But that's why you have to confront people up front and say, like, what is it about this that bothers you? And why does it bother you? And there's some insecurity in you that's causing this feeling of uncomfortableness. It's not me. It's not something inside of me that's causing this. It's something inside of you. And you need to work through that. And I think that you bringing it back to that level and putting it back where it belongs, which is on them, definitely is a help in that situation, because then what you're doing is, without getting angry, you're giving people the opportunity to think, to rethink, their motives for why they're saying or doing something. So I think that's really important. So when I talk about who you are as a person, I think it's important for all of us to remember that there are good and bad things in all of us. I see so many people put themselves down online. And don't worry, I am definitely guilty of self-deprecating humor. I've always had an issue with self-esteem. Even doing these videos, I'm a little anxious, but over the years, I've gotten a little bit more confident, a little bit more sure of myself. And I think it's important for us to all sit down and look in the mirror and say, who am I? Who am I as a person? Who am I as an individual? Who am I as a mother or a sister or a cousin, an aunt, whatever? Who am I in those roles? And what purpose do I serve? Because I think when we start looking at who we are and appreciating who we are, here's the thing. Nobody else can love you if you don't love yourself. That's a true statement. It sounds kind of cliche, but it's true, because here's the thing. If you don't love yourself, you're going to allow people to treat you in a way that is less than ideal. If you don't think you deserve better, then you're going to let people treat you. And here's the reality of human beings, and all human beings. I'm not only talking about men. Human beings will do what they can get away with. That's a fact. If you knew that you could go and get all your clothes and food for free and not have any consequences, people would do it. The whole reason that we don't is because we know that there are consequences to our actions, number one, but also we're aware that it's morally wrong to steal. But if you had no consequences and no guilt and no shame and you could do whatever you wanted, we would very often do more than we do now. Hang on, I gotta grab a headband while I'm talking to you. So if you allow someone to talk to you in a disrespectful manner, or you allow someone to mistreat you, or you allow someone to disrespect you, they will do it over and over and over again. The only way to stop that behavior is to say, I will not tolerate it anymore. I absolutely will not tolerate it. And when you say that, you put a stop to it, and they will stop doing it because they realize that they can't get away with it. You know, that they can't do it. But until you put your foot down, sorry, I'm shaking the camera a little bit. Until you put your foot down, people will always do what they can get away with. So it's important not only for you to stand up for yourself, but when you love yourself, you demand better for yourself because you know that you deserve it. And so that's why I think it's important every now and again to sit back and say, who am I? And am I worth this, or am I worth that? Because until you love yourself, nobody else can properly love you. You have to love yourself first. I know it's kind of a corny saying, but you have to be your own best friend. And I think that's really important. I know for me, I have difficulty coming up with positive things about myself, but when I really sit down and think about it, I can actually find a lot of things that I like about myself. I'm a kind person. I give to others all the time. I'm a good listener. I'm considerate. I'm empathetic. I am detail oriented, which can be good or bad, but I'm using it in the good sense. I usually finish tasks that I start. I can be driven and motivated, although I do lack motivation in some areas. I have motivation in others. As I said before, I'm becoming more patient and tolerant of things and life. And so those are things that years ago I couldn't say that I had or that I liked about myself, but now I can. So here's a trick. When you, every day, either when you get up or before you go to bed, oh, sorry, here's Evangeline all dressed. Look how pretty her is. She's so pretty. Look at yourself in the mirror and say 3 to 5 good things about yourself. And try to come up with different ones each day. So you're not saying the same 3 over and over again. You know, maybe one day you say, you know what, April? You are kind, you are considerate, and you are empathetic. And then the next day I can come in and say, you know what, April? You're fairly attractive. You've lost 50 pounds in the last 6 months, which is a huge accomplishment. And even though, again, I'm trying to go for the inside, that is something I'm very proud of. So I think that could be on my list. And you are smart. You know, when I think about my body, I think, okay, what do I like about my body? I like the fact that my ears don't stick out. I've always seen a lot of people where their ears stick out and they always complain about it. And so my ears are right up against my head. That's one of the physical traits that I really like about myself. This is melee. My ears don't stick out. And to me, that's a very positive thing. So that's one thing I can say about myself. You have nice ears. You know, what else do I like? I like the way my hands are shaped. You know, sometimes people have they don't have the joint that sticks out here. And I kind of like that about my hands. So, you know, I like my hands. Because of my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I have incredibly soft skin, which is, you know, negative and positive, but I'm going to use it as a positive today. So I have very soft skin. My hair is like silk. I like my hair. My hair is like silk. And for the longest time, I really hated my red hair. But you know what? In the last few years, I have really gotten into liking my red hair. And I used to try to dye it out, and it would always come out like a shade of like red brown or red dark brown or red blonde. Red hair is one of the things that's really, really hard to get rid of, even with dye. If you bleach it, it turns a white red. If you dye it, it turns a red. And then whatever color you bleached it, it's really almost impossible to get rid of red, especially in the sunlight. And I hated my hair for a long time. But over the last few years, I've seen how many people dye their hair red, And I'm like, why am I complaining about my hair? People tell me all the time how beautiful my hair is. So I kind of stopped, hating on my hair. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to embrace my red hair. And it took a while for me to do that because I really didn't like the red for a long time. But I had somebody once, a couple years ago in a supermarket, who said, I have tried every dye on the market and I cannot get my hair that color. What did you use to dye it? And I said, I didn't. That's my natural hair color. And she was like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And it dawned on me that there are people spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get my hair color. So, why am I complaining about something that's beautiful? One of the things that I do believe about the Bible is that God says that a woman's hair is her crowning glory and she should take care of her hair. And I actually have gotten to the point where I love my hair. I love the red. I think it's awesome. And I've realized again how many people spend a lot of money to try to get my hair color. And I get it naturally. I don't have to dye my hair. So definitely look at some of the things that makes you, that makes you unique. But find things every day that you like about yourself and foster those things. Then, after you say 3 things you like about yourself, name just one thing that you think you can improve on and make it a goal for the next week to work on that thing. Like I would say for me, you're smart, you're funny, you make friends easily, and you need to work on patience, or you need to work on motivation, or you need to work on sticking with something, or you need whatever the issue is. But don't do 3, just do 1 and say to yourself, for the next week, I'm going to focus on that one thing that I need to cultivate in myself. Now, granted, we're not going to make major life changes to our personalities in 1 week. But if you work on it for a week, then maybe the next week you'll decide, you know what? I still need to work on this. So I'm going to work on this again. And then find things that can test that attribute. For example, if it's patience, maybe instead of doing rush delivery on something you ordered, do standard delivery. Or if you're going to buy something but you're not sure you should because maybe you're a little impulsive with money, maybe you say, you know what? I'm going to wait 3 days. I'm going to think about this purchase. And take that time to develop your patience. If your issue is you have a lack of courage or you have a lack of bravery, maybe you find a situation online or in real life where you can speak up for somebody or you can speak out against some kind of injustice and you try to work on that. So it's not only important to point out what we need to work on, but then make a plan of how we're going to work on it. So again, for me, patience is, I have more than I used to, but I still need to work on being patient. So, I would say you're smart, you're funny, you make friends easily, and you need to work on your patience level. And so then I would work on my patience by finding ways to be more patient. Like for instance, I have dolls coming in the mail, and rather than checking the tracking every couple hours like I normally do, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to check once a day and that's it. And I actually didn't check for the first 2 days. I only checked today, and I was like, okay, that's good enough, And so what I'm doing is I'm putting myself deliberately in situations where I can foster patience within myself. And next week I may decide that I want to continue working on patience, or I might decide I want to try something totally different and work on another attribute, because we can complain about what we don't like about ourselves, but unless we do something to change it, it's going to be just that, a complaint. It's never going to go any further, and it's always going to be that thorn in your side. So if you have attributes about yourself that you really need to focus on, then definitely do that, but come up with a plan about how you're going to focus on it. What kind of situations are you going to put yourself in, or what kind of situations are you going to create that will challenge and foster the attribute that you're trying to improve to get better at. So I think that's really important. Here's Melee in her little cow outfit. I love cows. Cows and pigs are my favorite, but with her little unicorn slippers, isn't she adorable? She is so beautifully painted. I actually am thinking about trading her, and part of me is a little bit sad because this is my favorite kitten. I really do love her. So I don't know. I'm kind of deciding if I want to do that. But, it's tough sometimes. It's like you want a different baby, you want to change, but And the baby that I'm thinking about trading for is a baby that I've wanted for a while, and I have 4 Evelyns and I don't have the other one. So I'm kind of on the fence. I do, but I would miss her. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't decided yet, but I'll have another box opening for you guys on Tuesday, and I'm excited about that. So what else? Yeah. So this week, your challenge is to say 3 good things about yourself every day and make them different. I mean, obviously, like you might say, just don't say the same 3 things. Like one day you could say, I'm smart, I'm funny, and I'm kind. And the next day you could say, I'm smart, I'm kind, and I'm enthusiastic. So you could add one that you already used in there, but try not to do the same 3 every day, because then that kind of gets you off the hook of looking at things. And then look at your body and find a physical attribute that you like. My eyes are golden. They do. In the sun, they look like amber. I love my eyes. I love my hair. So those are things about me physically that I like. And I have long legs. I think that's a great attribute. And then do more work and more focus on who you are on the inside. But it's also important for us to love ourselves and love our bodies and love who we are, because we can't become somebody else. All we can do is be who we are. And when you try to become something different, you generally become something worse, because you can't be somebody else. You can try to emulate someone else if it's someone you look up to, but you can never be that person no matter how much you try. So definitely, also I want to talk to you guys about a breathing technique this week for when you feel stressed. So what you're going to do, I'm going to put her down. Melly's going to sit down with her sister. Is sit down, and I want you to take 30 breaths in and out. And I want each breath in or out to last for a count of 10. Now that might be a little bit of struggle if you have trouble with breathing, so just do it as long as you can. So you want to do it nice and slow. So you want to just sit back and relax and put your head back, and you're going to breathe in for a count of 10. Well, breathe in and then hold it for the count of 10. So you're breathing and holding for the count of 10. And then you're going to blow out and hold it for a count of 10. And you're going to do that 30 times. Because it is impossible to panic or be anxious when you are slow breathing. It's just it's physically impossible. It slows your heart rate down. It drops your blood pressure. There is no way to be doing the slow breathing and still be panicked. So that's what I want you guys to work on this week, because I think it's something I'm working on. And talk, maybe tell me in the comments what it is that you guys are working on, what you like about yourselves, and what maybe you need to work on. I would love to hear. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below. If you don't know what to comment, just put a heart, any color of the rainbow. I love the hearts. And yeah. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Please share this on your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, whatever. And subscribe and invite other people. That would be great. I would love to have more of a following. We're going to start a Facebook group for my YouTube channel, so we can all get together and talk in a place where I can actually respond to you guys live. That would be great. So yeah, take your time, subscribe, like, comment, and you guys have a great evening, and I will see you in the next time. Bye, ladybugs.